A reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. Thus says the Lord, observe what is right, do what is just, for my salvation is about to come, my justice about to be revealed. The foreigners who join themselves to the Lord, ministering to him, loving the name of the Lord, and becoming his servants, all who keep the Sabbath free from profanation and hold to my covenant, them I will bring to my holy mountain and make joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and sacrifices will be acceptable on my altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. The word of the Lord.
Our first reading for this Sunday comes from the prophet Isaiah. We know how this passage, in a way, could be considered quite revolutionary for the whole of the Old Testament. We know that Israel has a special spot in the heart of God. It is God's very own people. It is God who formed Israel to be a people. It is a nation that bears the name of God. It is peculiarly God's people, God's very own people. And in this context of the special calling of Israel, we find today's first reading quite revolutionary, because Isaiah says that a time will come when the non-members of Israel, the foreigners, would be considered part of God's people, and that their sacrifices will be accepted by God, and the temple will be a place not only of prayer for the Israelites, but even for the foreigners. Now, put yourselves in the shoes of Israel. You have gotten used to be God's own people. In fact, in the history of Israel, the other peoples were considered as villains. They were enemies, and God would always take the side of his own people, Israel. To hear this should have caused some earthquakes or jolts in the minds and hearts of the Israelites. But this is a true prophecy, telling us of the universal scope of God's saving plan. Does this remove the special role of Israel? Will Israel's place in God's heart and in God's plan suddenly disappear? No. The call of Israel will remain. It is still God's chosen people, the people of the covenant. But here we have a new understanding of Israel's calling. The special calling of Israel is meant to be open to the world. Through Israel, the world will know God. Through Israel, the world will know what prayer to God is all about. That is why Isaiah also said that the foreigners that will be acceptable to God are those who will minister to God, those who will follow God's covenant, those who, in a way, have learned from Israel. My dear brothers and sisters, we rejoice that through Israel we have seen the face of God, we have heard the voice of God, we have learned about the laws of God, and we have become part of the covenant of God. But we also rejoice that this covenant started by God with a particular people is meant to be shared by all. Now, I hope this is also an invitation. This serves as an invitation to all of us. Each one of us, as individuals and as communities, we have special gifts. that we have received from God, how do we look at those gifts? As an exclusive privilege? Do we use our gifts only to benefit ourselves and our small group? From the first reading, we learn that that was not the intention of God in calling Israel to a special place in His salvation plan, the plan of salvation. The gift of Israel is to be shared with all. And the joy of Israel is to see many other people, the foreigners, streaming to the house of God, rendering God proper, fitting worship and praise, so that in the end, the whole of humanity will become God's holy people.